Hello everybody, welcome along once again to the Rebel Wide Ball, and I suppose as has been the case since we started doing this particular broadcast, Gaelic games are going to be dominating the sporting scenario if you wish, and this week we have 10 county semi-finals in the 5 major hurling championships. There's a bit of divisional action, 2 divisional finals, big weekend in ladies football with the semi-finals of the senior championship in Camogie, a massive weekend, 4 quarter-finals, and of course we have the British Rally Championship. What an important weekend it is for Keith Cronin. We have some rugby for you, also the World Rowing Championship to keep us all entertained over the next period. So I suppose starting with by the way, I don't know whether I should apologise or explain. We have a different location this weekend for this particular broadcast, so I'm not too sure about camera angles or sound or anything like that. So the big games are, I suppose, the Premier Senior Hurling, and here we have the 2 games on Sunday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. At 2 o'clock we have Blackrock taking on Éireann's Own, and at 4 o'clock then you have St. Finbarrs and Newtown Chandram. I suppose, look, and I have to be a bit careful of some of this stuff, because I remember talking to you a couple of weeks ago about somebody came up with the idea of the Paudie P accumulator, and I don't know how much money has been lost in the meantime. But I do know a gentleman way up in the northwest of this country. I know we all have issues. He tunes in here. I reckon this is the last chance saloon he has of taking down the whole booking industry. So we'll be doing our best to give our informed opinion as to what might happen. Look, I reckon that Blackrock will be favourites against Éireann's Own, even though Éireann's Own got straight through to the semi-final. And you know what? It will be interesting to know how the teams that haven't been in action for the last 4 weeks, because they qualified straight for the semi-finals, they didn't have to play quarter-final. Be interesting enough to know how they get on. And of course, if they win, people will point out to the fact that the rest of them good. If they didn't, they'll say it was the lack of action. But anyway, Blackrock, the team with the jerseys that we can't read, and it might come back to haunt me on Sunday, because that match is one of the 4 live games I heard broadcast on local radio. But yeah, they're a really good team, and look, they were champions back in 2020. Fellas like Alan Connolly, Tyg Meesey, Michael O'Halloran and Mark O'Keefe. And the fact that, they had to get something out of that, that penalty victory over Imokilly the last day. But in fairness to Éireann's Own, and, I know they have Robbie O'Flynn and his brother, but it's mostly fellas that have been there for a while, like the Murphy brothers, the hero being one of them, Shea Bowen, Mossy Carroll, and Stephen Cronin. I can't believe that he's actually still playing. Stephen, who's originally from St. Mary's Club. Some of you will know his sister was a great Camogie Order Cronin, and another brother, Daniel Cronin, who was coach of the victorious O'Donnell and Rossa football team last week in the County Football Championship. At 4 o'clock then the game between Newtown Chandram and St. Finbarrs, and look, you do knock out Newtown Chandram at your peril. They've been absolutely amazing. There's a massive commitment, a small little rural club. And you've Cathal Naughton and Jamie Collin. These guys, a bit like Éireann's Own, have been operating for a while. But they're the stars of the show this year again. And as I said, fellas like Conor Toomey and Jerry Lane. But this Bears team, who I think are, if I was to put money on it, I would say that they're probably the favourites for the county championship. And they've players that play football for them as well. You've the 3 Callahans, Ben Cunningham, Ben O'Connor, Brian Hayes and Ethan Toomey. So, look, for what it's worth, yeah, we're going to go for the 2 city clubs in that one. The scenery of hurling, and what 2 great semi-finals we've here. At Friday night it opens the action, and that game will go on in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. Fermoy are the team that, are straight through to the semi-final, and they take on Corsi Rovers, who were last year's Premier Intermediate champions, and you know what, great credit due to them. They're still going in this year's championship, and I suppose Fermoy, actually, I would kind of fancy Corsi Rovers for this one, but for my really good players as well, fellas like Jake Carr, Liam Coleman, Jason Condon, Paudie DeRoche and Shane Herner, really good players for them, and they've so many others as well. But one thing I've noticed about the Corsi Rovers team over the past couple of years is the they have 3 or 4 forwards that are able to step up to the plate, like you've Richard Sweetenham, Tygo Sullivan, Sean Toomey. Fergus Lordan's a great centre back, and they have a fabulous goalkeeper in Stephen Nine, who can contribute as well as preventing scores. So for what it's worth, I'm predicting a double for Courses this weekend, because we'll be talking about their Camogie team in a minute. And then the other matches, Bride Rovers and Father O'Neill's, and sure, this has to be nothing other than a thriller. That game is a Saturday evening in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Father O'Neill's, look, sure, Bride Rovers are a forum team as well. Father O'Neill's are the team that went into the semi-final. Fellas like Declan Dalton, 5 Melricks. I just couldn't believe this. I went to see them one day. 5 people, 5 siblings from one family playing club hurling. It's rare enough nowadays. Billy Dunn is a fabulous player for them as well. But then you have the 2 Roach twins who are, developing into fine hurlers. And I saw somewhere that, that you could be talking about these guys being, cementing their place in the Cork team. And young players then like Adam Walsh and Killian Tobin and Kieran Kearney's down there as well. Somebody was telling me that, Declan Dalton, that there's an opportunity might present for him to get back into the Cork panel in a goalkeeping capacity. Remember, he was a goalkeeper for Killy a couple of years ago, but his free taking and general play, I'd have to thought that, don't be surprised there, my Northwest man, if this one is the one that catches us. But I think Father O'Neill's and Courses would be what I'd go for there. In the Premier Intermediate, again, it goes without saying, 2 competitive matches, and both on Saturday at 4 o'clock in Clodove. We have Ballinhassig and Inniscarra. Inniscarra, the team that came through the semi-final. Sean O'Donnell, who's an absolutely vital player for them. So too Colin Casey, who's been hanging around the place. That's probably the wrong term, but has been lining out for them for a long number of years. And then you have Owen McCarthy and David O'Keefe are outstanding players as well. Ballinhassig, I think, they're happy enough to be in it, in that their performance the last day against Bandon, it nearly wasn't good enough, but the fact that they won it in the end might be the result that could, I'm not saying their season needed to be turned or anything like that, but they've some really good hurlers, and Darragh O'Sullivan was outstanding that day. What age was he, 18 or 19 years of age? Conor Desmond, Donncha O'Donovan, their centre half back, and the Collins brothers, there's 3 of them. They will make a big impression. I don't know really, but I just have a slight fancy for Ballinhassig. What about the match then later on between Castlelyons, who were beaten in 2 county finals, and Castlemartin, the team that are bidding to win their 3rd county championship? They've won the lower and the intermediate A in the last 2 years, and Kieran Joyce has been fabulous for them. And then you have the Lawton brothers and Michael Kelly, just another player to mention. For Castlelyons, I suppose maybe, what's be for me to say, but are they coming to a stage that they nearly want to be winning it now? It's going to be at the business end, and great, it is of course, but sometimes if you're up there for a couple of years, you'd see it happening. Teams, maybe their chances would slip, but look, they're going to make a real Gary for it, and fellas like Jack Barry, Niall O'Leary, Colin Barry there, and Anthony Spillane. I honestly don't know. I have a slight fancy maybe for Castlemartin, and that's going against the odds big time. Then in the intermediate A, we have Clodove, the team that got to the semi-final, and playing Liscool, who are also a bit like Castlemartin, only a step behind them if you like, and they are trying to win their 3rd championship. And fellas like John Cronin, who's been a really outstanding hurler for them, he's a great footballer as well, I think played in Cork under 21 teams. Liam O'Shea, Kieran Cashman and Diarmuid Healy are other players from that club. And that game goes on in Riverstown, by the way. It is one of the Friday evening games. For Clodove, make no mistake, the Verling brothers up front are vital. Owen Clifford, the team captain at left half back. William Ahern and Aidan Murphy getting 2 goals in their last match. Then on Saturday at Carricktool, you have SARS playing Dungourney, and Dungourney or SARS, I think, were in the final here, and I know it's their 2nd team, but at this stage they're probably they are really good hurlers. Look, all those SARS guys would have been playing Premier 1 and Premier 2 hurling at underage level, and fellas like Rory O'Brien, Patrick O'Driscoll, Luke Carney, and Davy Kelly are outstanding players for them, but Dungorney likewise, Shane Hagerty, Ryan Denny and Jack Leahy could be the players that would swing it. So honestly, I don't know there. I've been told that I should fancy SARS, but sure, look, we'll go Dungorney for that one. And then the Premier Junior, and these are the boys that were nearly put out of business, and thankfully they were kept there, and it's a lovely championship now. 12 evenly matched teams, and we're down to semi-finals there on Sunday, this weekend as well at 4 o'clock on Saturday. We have Kilbrittain travelling over to Ballinspittle, the home of Corsia Rovers, to play South East side Tracton. Kilbrittain were in last year's final, and Jamie Wall is their coach. His brother Philip Wall is a big player for them, and they have guys that have been hanging around the block for a couple of years, like Morris Sexton and Ross Cashman. Tracton Ronan Walsh is one of their top scorers, I presume, but I should have checked it. Will Michael O'Sullivan be back for them after suspension? I think I'm going to go for Kilbrittain in that one. And the other game, which throws in a half an hour earlier, it's Ballygiblin versus Russell Rovers, and this game goes on in Ballino. Now, I suppose if you watch like Mitchelstown and Ballygiblin, okay, two separate clubs, but they are more or less the same players, 13 dual players here involved. I think it's fair to say that Mitchelstown or Ballygiblin maybe haven't been firing this season, and a lot of it, well, some of it could do with the fact that, there's injuries involved. Colin English is out, and Dara Flynn, I don't know how much of a role he's going to play this year. But remember, Ballygiblin they won the Cork County Junior Hurling Championship last year, followed on to Munster, got to All-Ireland, were beaten in that, and they have a great chance. If they were to win this championship, they'd create their own bit of history, and that they'd be representing Cork 2 years in a row. And I suppose, look, they have to be the favourites, but Josh Bushang and Bud Hodnett and fellas like that, Kevin Moynihan, will make it difficult for them. So, like, as I said about all these, and I think that the Cork Championship, the way they have it with the 12 teams, and now we're in the second or third year of the system, that the standards are really, really after levelling out, and that's why it is so difficult to predict them, and that's why it is such a wonderful championship. And last weekend I was telling you that I expected a draw on penalties. We got the draw. We'd have got the penalty if Adrigal had got a free towards the end. If they pointed a free that they got towards the end, we could have it this weekend. Two divisional finals that will entertain us. We have the hurling in Duhallow between Drumtariff, who've been very involved in football over the last couple of weeks. They play Bantier in Meelan, Sunday at 3 o'clock. Now, I would fancy Drumtariff, insofar as I do think they have some outstanding hurlers, but Bantier have the advantage of playing Kilbrine in a draw, a replay last week, before a huge crowd in Kenturk. And there is a little bit... anyway, we'll just go through that. I think Drumtariff will win that one. And I'm really looking forward to a great football match down in West Cork between two teams that were certainly not on everybody's lips at the start of the year. And of course, the prize of this junior football, I've been telling you, is awesome this year. But it's Arragdeen Rangers from Timoleague, and they're playing the Mountaineer people from St James's in Artfield. Now, they both won this championship once in 1994 for Arragdeen Rangers, and St James's won it in 2019. Who's going to... but was it back only in 2017, I think? Arragdeen Rangers were playing the County TRWB Championship. They were involved in this group. Arragdeen Rangers were of Barry Rowe and Ty McCorrigan, and they were the team that nearly lost out, and they've been out there to prove maybe people wrong, and they were a bit disappointed that they had to play hurling and football. But it's on in Ayole on Sunday at 3:30, and look, I'm really looking forward to the outcome of that particular match. As I said to you, I think if somebody said to you a couple of years ago that either Arragdeen Rangers or St James's would be playing in a county football championship in 2023, I'd say not alone would you've got odds, but you've got a shot of white coats running after you. So anyway, well done to both of them, and well done to everybody taking part in any of those matches. I mentioned to you at the start about Camogie, and we're now down to the quarter-finals of the Senior Championship, and dare I say it, I think it's probably the most competitive Camogie Championship that I have witnessed in quite a while. And there's at least, there's 8 teams left in it. I'd argue that there's 4 of them capable of winning this. But anyway, Shandong play Rogan, and at this game, it was not a bit of doubt, but the venue and the time. It is on Monday and Clodove at 8 o'clock. Shandong will have to be the favourites there. Rogue will have a lot of players involved on Sunday in the ladies football semi-final. St Finbarr's on Saturday, we've St Finbarr's playing Killa in Church Road at 2:45. I'd fancy St Finbarr's here. They have some excellent players. So too have Killa, and I've been reminded by people that know an awful lot more about Camogie than I do that this could be, I suppose, maybe a bit of a surprise. Would that be the way to describe it if Killa won it? Inniscarra and Clodove, Friday night in MTU at 8 o'clock. You'd have to have fancy Inniscarra, even though Clodove have had a great season. And but for that reason, not for that reason, I'm still going to go to Inniscarra. Remember, they were in the county final last year. They represented Cork in the Munster Championship. And the final game then on Saturday at 5:30 are the ladies I spoke to earlier on, Cork Rovers, who were champions 2 years ago, taking on SARS. This probably is the hardest game to predict. I've been with Cork Rovers saying that they would win their matches during the year, and we're going to stick with them now. So that's, as I said, 4 interesting Camogie games. And on Sunday, the Camogie and the ladies football, there obviously has to be some sort of communication, because a lot of the girls play both. On Sunday we have the 2 senior ladies football semi-finals in the Senior A. We have Ahada, who'll be hosting Mourne. Both of those games, I think, Sunday at 1 o'clock. And look, we know all about Mourne, practically the best team in the country, and have been over the past couple of years, taking on Ahada. And Mourne will be the favourites. But Ahada have some serious footballers as well. You have the Leahy sisters, you have Roisin Phelan, Hannah Looney, and Amy O'Connor, the Cork Camogie player, is now playing with them, but I still think that Mourne are going to win that one. The other game is between Rogue and Bride Rovers, and look, I said that before, I think Rogue and Mourne are the 2 best teams. And by the way, the finals of all the ladies football finals take place on Saturday week in CIT, or in MTU, my apologies. 1 o'clock junior, 3 o'clock intermediate, and 5 o'clock the seniors. And I think that's going to be an amazing setup. The intermediate final, I won't say it's done and dusted, but there's no games in that this weekend except a relegation game, I think. Is it between Bantry and Dunamore? But the 2 teams that will contest that are I was going to say SARS, Glenmoira and Castlehaven. In the junior, I've been talking about 3 teams in that for a while. Well, I think the games on this weekend that O'Donnell and Ross should get over Beara. Dawneys will have to beat Douglas, and them. I think then you could have O'Donnell and Ross, Dawneys and Neva Vaughan involved in a 3-way tie or something like that. So it could be scoring difference, because the top 2 will have to be decided. The top 2 go through to the final on Saturday week. So yeah, look, it's great that the Camogie is. I think the senior Camogie is more competitive than the ladies football. One problem I think that Camogie might have is I don't think they have a built-in relegation system, but maybe that's something that they'd look at. Onto soccer, and this week there's a break from the Premier League. The Queen caused a bit of a break, so now we have the international break, they call it, and we know instead of friendlies we have this UEFA Nations League, and Ireland are in Group B. It would be better if they were in Group A, but far better than if they were in Group C. The games are some way competitive, and they had a poor start in this, no win, no goals, and then they had 2 great results in June where they beat Scotland 3-0 and they drew 1-1 with Ukraine. Well, this Saturday they play Scotland in Hampden Park, and it's a big game for them insofar that they want to get something from it. And then on Tuesday they play Armenia at home here in the Aviva Stadium. So I think that they need to get something from the Scottish game. They'll win the Armenia game and they won't be relegated. They'll end up mid-table. But this is all in preparation for the European Championship, the 2024 European Championships, with the group games beginning that next March. So, and like those of you that follow, you've seen that Stephen Kinney has brought in a whole host of new young players, and the matches last June in particular, you saw them coming to fruition. So hopefully the Kinney experiment continues in a positive light. In rugby, well, all we have this weekend is I won't say all this week, all we have is the United Rugby Championship, and again Munster go to Wales to take on the Dragons. Last week they lost, but they got a bonus point, lost at least against Cardiff. They'll have a number of the players back from that were on tour at the internationals, but they'll be missing players that are Ireland have this young emerging talent squad going to South Africa, so they'll be missing through those. But the Dragons were beaten well last week, so you'll be expecting Munster to win that one. The World Rowing Championship is on as we speak, and this morning there are the A and B semi-finals, and basically the top 3 of each semi-final go through to the final, and the single sculls at 20-9, which is very shortly. Lydia Heafy will be rowing from the Skibbereen Rowing Club, that is now. In the lightweight doubles and the women's at 10:05, you have Margaret Cremen and the Skibbereen girl. I was going to say the Kinsale girl, where am I my head? Aoife Casey. Then the wonderful gentlemen, the 2 most talented rowers ever. Paul O'Donnell and Fintan McCarthy go at 10:35, and at 10:45 then you've the women's 4, and here you've Emily Haggerty in the boat, the same as they were in the Olympics with Fiona Murta, Eamon Lamb and Afrik Kyo. So the best of luck to them, and I'd be expecting that we'll be looking at more medals heading back into the west, as they say. Finally, the British Rally Championship, and this is a massive weekend for Keith Cronin. It's the second last round of the British Rally Championship. It's the Trackwood Rally Yorkshire, takes place Friday and Saturday. The last rally, you may remember that they rolled over. It was a serious crash, but seemingly the car is back in business, and they really have to win. When I say they, himself and his co-driver Mikey Galvin from Killarney. Now, I told you this, mentioned this to you before. The man that's in pole position, now the Welshman himself is has Noel O'Sullivan is the co-driver here. So Price is the man leading it. They both drive Volkswagen Polos GTI R5s. The only difference are the tyres, in that Keith Cronin's car says Pirelli tyres, whereas Price is Michelin. So the very best to look to Keith Cronin that, because if he could win it, or at least prevent Price from getting the podium finish and top points, that would keep it alive to the last rally in Wales next month. Because if Cronin wins this rally, he'll be creating history in joining Jimmy McRae and becoming the only driver to win the British Rally Championship 5 times in a row. Won't it be absolutely incredible? So to all of you, thanks once again. Apologies if something's out of order about this production in terms of lighting or whatever. And I'm so looking forward to all those matches regardless of codes, and this is the life we live, and thankfully we do. So until the next time, mind yourself and take care.